go live. It says going live. Oh my goodness. I think everyone. I think we're live. We got cancelled by YouTube. I think the algorithm got us somehow. I'm so sorry about that. And the link is updated. Hopefully everyone's going to find us in the right link. That's probably wiped out our numbers for the start of the year. Happy New Year, everyone. James Bennett is here. Hello, James.
Hello. Shemai.
Shemai.
Croeso I Rail Natter.
Yeah, Croeso I Rail Natter. Yeah, this is it. People can hear it. They've hopefully got visuals. Oh, everyone, I'm so sorry about that. I don't really know what happened. I think I kind of do know what happened, and I think partly I broke it. But it's fine. Probably. For anyone who's not got the video, do a quick refresh, and it should work, and you should be live. People are saying it's live. No, don't worry, everyone. You weren't doing anything wrong. I think I know how I broke it, but it's fine. People in YouTube are very confused about what's happening, but Deirdre is fixing them up, and people are. It's fine. There we go. I'm just going to send a new. Oh no, I don't want to send the. I just nearly pasted my stream key onto Twitter. That was probably a bad plan. In any case, no, I'm not in face mode. The reason I'm not in face mode is because it's the start of the show, and we don't do face mode until post intro credits. That's the way the format works. You know what? Oh, we can do that. Oh no, we're not going to. I'm going to focus. We're going to press on with the news. Welcome to Rail Natter. We're going to have the news. So, COVID is still happening, but this is all of 2020 COVID. We've got to the end of the year, and wait a minute. Let me just do a thing, which is this and this. There we are. I now have a Wacom. I'm waving around a pen that I'll show you when the screen cam thing goes up. Yeah, so cycling went well. Look, cycling going well, and everything else did not, as you can see. So we've had, it's probably the most incredible graph in terms of transport trends. Probably the most incredible graph in transport history in the UK. Honestly, roaming adcrat. I think we are working. People can. It is here. There we go. Yes, it's all happening. So that's COVID. I'm going to do a rail natter about this, and generally picking out railway trends, because it's just bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. But you can sort of see people are saying, "Oh, the railways, people aren't using them anymore." No, that's because we had a national lockdown, and then we had the rule of six, and then we had another national lockdown, and then holiday measures. And you can see as you kind of trace under good grief. I'm getting used to this thing. You can sort of see. Every time there's a lockdown, you can see the impact it has on everything. There's rail disappearing off down again. Anyway, quite interesting. Next, news item. Oh, it's an interesting one. It's some green on green action. The Green Party of Scotland, the Scottish Greens, have published a really interesting little strategy. This is the first time any national party has done this in recent history in the UK, which is publish a strategy for rail. I don't know. Have any of the Welsh parties done a rail strategy, James? Have any of them done but actually published it as a party rather than in government?
I don't think so. I think obviously they've included items in manifestos before that I've picked up, but nothing specific like this. The only other thing I can think of was when Labour published their white paper last year covering their plans for the future structure of the railways. But yeah, it's a really interesting read, and
it's good.
I think. Yeah, obviously, speaking in my own personal capacity, there are definitely some interesting ideas there, and I think they're doing it the right way. As you said on Twitter, they're not saying, here are some old railway lines we'd like to reopen. It's, here are these places that we'd like to connect to improve their connectivity, which is, thinking about it in a more strategic way, which is something that, we're doing with the metros, as we'll get onto later.
Yes, we'll get onto. So probably the most exciting thing was the fact that we got this new this new tunnel proposal, which a lot of people have gone, oh, why do you need that for? But actually, it's really quite a clever idea, and I would recommend people to have a little think about it, because I'm not going to say anything more about it, because I think I'm going to talk more about it in a few rail natters. In any case, read all this stuff. It's great. The best thing about this report is the shade that the Scottish Green parties, so the Scottish Greens, the shade they have been throwing onto the they are not the wait a minute, this is what I need. They are not the same as the Green Party of England and Wales. Why did I do England and Wales the wrong way around there? In any case, the best bit is this, where they really slag off the Green Party of England and Wales when they say people get in the way of new high-speed lines. Anyway, it's all good fun stuff. What else is in the news? What else is in the news? Yes, Cambridgeshire Autonomous Metro. Once again, one of my nemesis projects. Mott MacDonald have been awarded the contract to progress this thing. $4 billion plus joke. So that's one to watch and enjoy. What else is in the news? What's coming up? What else? Yes. Tim is back.
I'm Tim Dunn, and all my life I've been fascinated by the railway buildings of the world.
Wow.
From abandoned tunnels and state-of-the-art stations.
The key word from the architects was light and air.
To eco-friendly funiculars.
What a spectacular view.
And fully functional roundhouses.
I am ridiculously excited about turning this train round.
In my brand new series, I'll be embarking on a journey far and wide, uncovering their intricate designs.
When it was built, the Connell Bridge was the largest single-span steel bridge in Britain.
Their ingenious functions.
That's harder than I thought.
And their remarkable stories.
The final assassination attempt on her life happened right here.
Crikey.
Discover the history behind the architecture the railways built.
This is a thing that is in the landscape to stay.
Starts Tuesday the 19th of January, new and exclusive to yesterday.
That's it. Tim is back, everyone. Hopefully all of you have seen the ad. I'm very excited. This was like lockdown. I don't know about you, James, but this was like what kept us sane in the first part of lockdown last year was catching up with Tim on Tuesday nights. So 8 p.m. Tuesday night, next Tuesday, in fact, Tuesday the 19th. So the night before Rail Natter. That's the way you can all remember it, obviously, that way around. So go watch that.
I'm a big fan of Connell Bridge as well.
Oh, yeah,
so
nice.
Definitely looking forward to seeing that. I've been over it in the car. Shame I can't be over it in a train. That's one of my sort of top 5 lines that should never have closed. I know it didn't really serve much of an economic purpose.
It's very scenic. It would have been good if it
incredible.
had connected up through to... it would be very useful if it connected up through to Fort William, and that's kind of what the original plan was. In fact, it was originally planned to go up to... anyway, you'd have to wait until the Connell Bridge Rail Natter for all this. Oh. In any case, right, what else is in the news? Oh, nothing. We're at the end of the news. That was cheeky to chuck that in the news, but I did it in case people switch off at the end. So if I put it at the end, people might miss it. In any case, we're here to talk about TFW, or rather, should we say, Trafnidiaeth Cymru. Is that right?
Yep, that's spot on.
Nailed it. So basically, that's what we're specifically going to be talking about, the South Wales Metro. So, which you're going to be able to talk about after we've done the intro, because that's the way the format works. It's everyone. Welcome to the professional Rail Natter 2021. In any case, without further ado, James, we're going to talk to you momentarily. But welcome to tonight's Rail Natter, everyone. I'm waving manically. Actually. Just a second. Wait, I'm just going to double check. While I'm here, I did do it right. I just had a moment of panic. As I say, professional show. I had a moment of panic, but I hadn't updated the opening sequence. But I have, so it's fine. Welcome to tonight's Rail Natter, everyone. And the lovely Intercity 225 fades out. We can come to our faces side by side. James, hello, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. I just need to
Welcome,
breathe now.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's weird to see my name up in lights, given I've been watching this for several months, watching other people in my seat now.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and you're talking about a subject that's very interesting. A lot of us have been following quite closely, and are in, but perhaps without knowing exactly kind of how it's going to evolve, and so this is going to be fun. And without so like the start. I tell you what. First of all, tell us what you do, James. Tell us what your role is and who you work for and what you're how it all fits in.
So I work for Transport for Wales. I'm a communications officer, so my focus is on external communication, so things like writing press releases, liaising with the media, managing our social media channels. That's the there's the Transport for Wales social media account rather than the Transport for Wales Rail Services social media account. They got a separate team who are fantastic and manning that day and night, and doing occasional presentations and cool stuff like this, which I want to do more of in 2021. And also we're going to be launching a blog soon, which will have lots of interesting content on.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Doing stuff on. There'll be a mixture of stuff that we're doing at Transport for Wales, plus some of the history of the rail network, which is kind of my passion, really. I love all of that stuff.
So that's because I think social media, kind of rail industry social media, has been a bit of a kind of a massive success story in my eyes. I'm looking forward to kind of exploring it a bit more this year. It'd be quite good to get someone in who's led one of the led one of the earlier comms teams. It'd be interesting. I have to dig back through and see who were some of the first to take it on. Maybe it was one of the original Virgin kind of teams, actually, perhaps. But it was quite interesting to track that. So yeah, it's interesting to see how it's evolved and sort of some of the best practice, particularly related to infrastructure. Actually, obviously, Network Rail. Quite a few of the Network Rail accounts are really quite good. In terms of the South Wales Metro, if I whiz myself back to our slides, you can hear we can hear the end of the music fading out. Let's not worry about that too much. That's just me not clicking things in the right order. If we go back to, let's get our little faces up in the corner. Here we are. We're up in the corner. We are covering up Caldecott Station, but we don't need to worry about that too much. So this here is an image I did ages ago when the M4 Relief Road was cancelled. This stupidly pointless M4 Relief Road was canned off, and it was a suggestion of some of the things that could happen. So this is me just looking at one aspect. This isn't the whole of the South Wales Metro. This is just one little aspect, and this was me basically playing with what it could look like, given that this is mostly a 4-track, in some cases more than that, corridor. Interesting to look at what it was, and so that's kind of where. And then a lot of people said, well, this kind of includes some, and I'd heard of the South Wales Metro, and then enter you coming in and saying, well, you know what, I can talk about the progress related to that, and then so to kind of annotate that, here's a picture of a building. First picture, we're going into your slides. This is a building it's got, when again, audio describe, looks fairly new. It's got red and orange and yellow on it, which is nice. Tell us about it. What's going on here?
Yeah, so these are actually two buildings. The one on the left-hand side, that is the new Transport for Wales headquarters. This whole complex is called Llys Cadwyn, which is chain close, named after the Brown Lennox chain works that were nearby, where they made the chains for some of the big ships, including the Great Eastern. It's the famous photo of your favourite engineer, isn't Bad Kingdom Brunel? It stood in front of those chains.
The chains
were made in Pontypridd.
I see.
So,
nice.
Yeah, so it's just around the corner from me. I live here now. I'm a Rhondda boy originally, so from just up the road. But yeah, this whole new development's replacing a 1960s shopping centre, and that one you've got the arrow at is the new headquarters, which has been developed in a real sustainable way. We wanted to emphasise that yes, we're moving into a new office, but we're working with a social enterprise called Merthyr Institute for the Blind, who are refashioning all our old equipment from our old headquarters in Cardiff. So, and actually, that is usually the highest amount of carbon footprint when you move offices. It actually comes from buying lots of new equipment. So, taking that out of it, actually, it's been done.
It's very easy. Yeah, it's very easy to just say, you know what, it's cheaper to not, chuck that, skip all that. Easier to just get new stuff. But yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, yeah.
So we haven't officially. Well, I think we've officially changed our registered headquarters yet, but obviously due to COVID, we're all working from home at the moment. But we're looking forward to settling in the new office in the future, and this fantastic new development. There's 3 buildings in total. It's really going to help the development of Pontypridd as a town. In terms of sort of our purpose as a whole, we're a not-for-profit, arm's-length public body owned by the Welsh Government. We exist to basically drive forward the Welsh Government's vision of a high-quality, safe, integrated, affordable, accessible public transport network that the people of Wales are proud of. So in layman's terms, that's basically we are both the expert advisors to Welsh Government on transport matters. So if they have something they would like to do, they will come to us and we can provide the expert advice on how that can be achieved. And then we're also the delivery arm. Also we're kind of there to deliver the Welsh Government's policies. We were set up in 2016 initially to run the procurement for the Wales and Borders Rail Service, which covers the South Wales Metro as well, which is a key part of that, and now managing the Wales and Borders contract on behalf of Welsh ministers. We're a growing organisation. It's grown enormously since I started. I've been with TfW since autumn 2018, since just before we took over the rail service. One thing I know a lot of people listening are looking for careers in the rail industry, particularly from an engineering background and a transport planning background. And it's worth a note that we have our graduate scheme open until the end of the month. So if anyone is interested in coming on, the number of functions that we cover is enormous. And it's not just rail that we do. It's looking at all different aspects of public transport in Wales. And if that sounds something you'd be interested in, tfwearlycareers.wales is where you can go for that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I should write that down, but my handwriting would be so poor that people won't be able to follow the link anyway. Yep. So that's also, go into the Discord after this if you're interested in career stuff, because we can have a bit more of a chat about that, but some really amazing opportunities out there. Bob Price, save that question up because it's a really good one. In any case, so that's the HQ looking kind of ready to, kind of finished but ready to be occupied still. It's still a few bits and pieces around there. So let's crack on. So this is some hoarding. So we've flipped on to the next picture. It's some nice
really
hoarding.
Well made hoarding.
With Welsh, lots of nice bilingual there. Griffiths as well, supporting the construction. Look at that. Also some nice. It's always worth noting this sort of action here going on. There we are. Just me highlighting the EU ERDF funding there.
Yes.
Classic.
We're getting quite a lot of ERDF funding, which is kind of a key part of the funding that's come for the Metro as a whole. But yes, this is at Taff's Well. This is the hoarding that's going up around the site where the new rolling stock depot is going to be. I've got some more images of that later on in the slides. But just to kind of give a sort of brief introduction to what the South Wales Metro is. It's an integrated public transport network which would be made up of heavy rail, light rail, bus and active travel. That is walking, cycling, wheelchairs, mobility scooters, etc. All of those routes kind of combine to make this integrated network. So basically, the Metro itself is an area that covers the 10 local authorities that make up what is known as the Cardiff Capital Region. So that's Blaenau Gwent, Bridgend, Caerphilly, Cardiff, Merthyr Tydfil, Monmouthshire, Newport, Rhondda and Taff, Torfaen and the Vale of Glamorgan. So those 10 areas as a whole amount to half the population of Wales, around 1.5 million people. So all of the railway lines that are within that area come under the Metro heading, as it were. But the real heart of the Metro plans at the moment are the Core Valley lines, which are 7 heavy rail lines radiating from the city centre of Cardiff. So that's the Rumney line, Corrigan line, Merthyr line, Aberdare, Treherbert, Cardiff Bay and the City line, plus the Cwmbargoed freight line also comes under that. These lines transferred from Network Rail to TfW ownership in March of last year, just as we were going into lockdown.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was just as, I remember because it was just as lockdown was happening, and that's kind of what sparked, I think that sparked a lot more interest, because people suddenly realised, it was like, oh, this is real, it's happening, things are going on. For anyone who's wondering, don't worry, we are going to have maps to kind of triangulate people shortly. We'll get there. David Shepherd asks, does European regional development funding get chopped off because of Brexit, or has this money already come along and been authorised, so is it fine? I think it's the latter. It's been
yes, yeah, it's absolutely fine. It's it's in the funding, the round of funding, which is a set period, which we were successful in applying for. So
so funding is guaranteed,
but affected by Brexit.
It certainly potentially limits future funding round applications. That money is no longer there to be applied for. So it doesn't affect this and this work, but in future, for future expansion, future kind of any future schemes, Britain-wide, frankly, it's not there to be applied for. So lots of people saying map, please. Don't worry, you're going to get a map very shortly, I promise.
We will get a map.
Don't worry, James has brought maps.
I love maps. I've got my Colonel Corbett Atlas just behind me, just in case I need it, which for anyone who doesn't know, it's the greatest mapping of Britain's railways that's ever been completed. It's pretty much every single passenger line mapped by Colonel Corbett, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. It was basically his life's work, and it's all projected onto an old OS map. dates for station closures and line closures and stuff like that. It's brilliant. So just in case I need it later on, I've got it just behind me.
Yeah. I just realised I've got new lighting, everyone. Hello, welcome to Rail Natter, for people who haven't been here before. But for those who are familiar with it, the lighting is making me look pink. It was making me look a lot pinker than I kind of planned it to. But that's fine. Maybe it's because there's so much energy. It's actually just making me sweat. Anyway, no one cares. So okay, so that's the hoarding. But what is we're gonna, and I think you've got a picture behind the hoarding as well, actually, don't you?
Later on, yeah.
Later on, it's all we're teasing you, folks. There's just we've got maps and all sorts later on. But we're going to start with. Do you want to move to the next picture? Give me a prod.
Yeah, sure. Sure. I mean, it was just a case of I can, I'm going to come back to more of the details around the work that's actually going on to develop the Corby lines later. But it's £750 million in £750 million, that is. In total. So it's heavy work and it's going to take a few years to complete.
Talking of which, here is a bit of former railway line. Tell us about this picture. Describe what's on screen and then tell us about it.
Yeah, so this is what you can see is like an overgrown railway cutting, and you can see two brick pillars that are standing up in the middle of all this overgrown stuff. And unless you kind of knew the area, I think you probably wouldn't know. So the day that I went and took a photo of that hoarding, I continued along the Taff Trail to this place because it's an old railway line, and once you kind of get to the end of that, just on the outskirts of Caerphilly, you come to this place, which is Penrose Junction. So this was a site really that typifies the rise and fall of the Valley's railway network. There were 3 railway companies all converged on this one place, plus one of them, the Barry Railway Company, which was like the Great Central Railway of Wales, really. They were like quite late on the scene and sort of did these kind of high...
so heavy engineering.
Heavy engineering works and stuff, and they did this massive flyover as well. So, it's a site where all these railway companies converge, trying to get through what's known as the Taff Gap, which is the geological fault in the valleys that kind of allows the valleys to just open up a little bit, and everything kind of all converges on Taff's Well, which is why it makes a great site for our depot. It's a historic railway site. But basically it was all built over the course of the 19th century, and eventually all closed between the 60s, and the last line through here closed in about 1984.
So I've cycled the length of the Taff Trail. Actually, it was on my cycle from. I did a cycle from Conwy to Cardiff, kind of north-south in Wales, and for the whole bit south of kind of went over the hill from Brecon, and then on the way south, right from the top of the hill, just followed the Taff Trail all the way down to right the way down into the bay as well, actually. And it's the whole thing is, or the most of it's following the old railway, but the whole thing is just following this incredible industrial corridor. Just the amount of goods that were moving down, kind of downstream, if you like, downriver, into Cardiff along this corridor. And you can tell there's a lot of industrial decline, a lot of populations. Equally, there are a lot of areas being rejuvenated as well. Even when I did that, probably the best part of 10 years ago now, things were turning around a bit in quite a few places. So I think this is indicative of that turnaround and a bit of positive momentum, I think, behind that. But the amount of ex-industrial stuff, including railways, is incredible. This is the cradle of the modern railway system, really. Kind of without the kind of the plateways and the railways that existed before the steam locos were using them in South Wales, we wouldn't have the railways we have today. Thanks, Trevithick.
And we also, I mean, it's worth kind of going through a quick chronology of it. I mean, obviously, as you say, the 18th century was when some of the tramroads popping up. We've got the oldest iron railway bridge in the world in Merthyr, called Pontarcafnau, which is it opened in 1793. It's just at the back of where Cyfarthfa Castle is now, because it was part of the complex that was serving all of the steelworks. Then, as you say, Trevithick's locomotive runs on the Penydarren tramway in 1804. 1807, you get the Swansea and Mumbles Railway, which is the world's first paying passenger rail service. And then there's a bit of a gap. And then the Valley's railway companies start popping up. In 1835, that really starts with the founding of the Taff Vale Railway, with the first section of line between Cardiff and Abercynon, that opened 1840. That was engineered by Brunel. And then after that, I mean, the best thing is really to look on Rail Map online and kind of zoom in. You see all of these different colours of all these different companies. building up this complex and intricate rail network. And the reason there were so many different companies is because each of these were serving different industrial interests and different companies. You had industrialists building collieries and ironworks and steelworks, but then also you had a number of different docks as well, and each dock was competing with each other. You had Newport, Cardiff, Barry, Swansea.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you.
We're getting Railmap Online up. So here's, if anyone who's not used Railmap Online, this is what it looks like. It's got all the different railway companies. And what's this fantastically colourful bit down here? We go down here, you can just see the density of different rail kind of rail companies here.
Yeah, so blue is the Taff Vale, green is the GWR, the darker green is GWR, the light green is the Barry Railway Company, as I said, with one of the later ones. You've got the red one's the Port Talbot Railway, the orange is the Rumney Railway. You've got the light pink going up towards from Newport up to Merthyr. That was the Brecon and Merthyr Railway, known as the Breakneck and Murder Railway because their terrible safety record.
That's the one you cycle up, by the way. So you start on the Breakneck, and then you come down and find your way. Once you get into Merthyr, then you find your way onto the Taff Vale. But the cycle path follows this up the side of the valley, along the loch, along the lake rather. So I think you've described it wonderfully, but I think this picture somewhat paints the kind of a pretty grand picture of the intensity. If you zoom out, there are a few places in the country that have that intensity of railway network. It's
only really
dense.
Yorkshire, I reckon.
Yeah, it's
West
more
Yorkshire's
dense even than the northwest. The area around Manchester was kind of amongst the most dense. The northeast was very, very dense. But actually, and then the central belt again. But really, the density, I think the density and the spread is in South Wales is unmatched. London is very dense, but it's very small actually compared to these larger industrial areas. London wasn't particularly dense in terms of railway coverage compared to these industrial areas, really. Anyway, that's I just thought I'd put that there because it's quite interesting.
Thanks for that. I think that just kind of shows it really well because. The other thing that really kind of strikes you when you kind of go on a really kind of tight level is you see that each valley has like 2 or even 3 different railway lines all competing with each other, and that was ultimately an unsustainable network. As far as when we're getting into the grouping and to nationalisation, because then the vast majority of lines ended up under the control of the GWR, and a lot of it was redundant. So the Barry Railway flyover at Penrose, that was taken up because basically the Barry Railway and all the other local companies were grouped together, and GWR said, well, why have we got this heavily engineered line with massive viaducts? The biggest one was the one at Llanbradach, which is enormous. If you see some pictures of that, there aren't many because it was closed in the 20s and dismantled.
Yeah, so there just aren't that many photos of it.
It's the scale of what the Barry Railway in particular did was immense. But actually, I mean, the decline really had started after World War One. I think peak coal was 1913. So then you kind of come into this situation. We're getting in through the 30s, and there is some thinking about what we can do with the network going forward. So Professor Hilary Marquand, who was an economist, later became a Labour MP. He wrote a book in 1936 called South Wales Needs a Plan. And
so that was 36. Did you say 36?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like they're already realising that there was no plan. A railway network built without no plan. Ella, I know I'm clipping, but my mic's doing that thing where it gets madly loud for no particular reason. Wait a minute, I'm going to pull my sound down a little bit. Thanks, Ella. I'm going down by 1 decibel. There we go. How's that, everyone? Is that better? So it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of these strange things. Also, it's a bit counterintuitive, and a lot of people wonder why we closed some of the more heavily engineered railways, but kept maybe slightly windier or slightly naffer ones. Well, there are lots of politics behind it, but from an engineering perspective, actually, if you've got these grand structures, they require more money to maintain. So you're going to go for the railway that's perhaps longer but more at grade and less grandly engineered, which nowadays seems bonkers because you're actually increasing the offset of increasing passenger revenue by having a faster connection is more crucial now. But certainly in the before the 1950s and 60s, it was more about minimising your engineering spend.
Exactly, and that is why the cross valley lines are the ones that suffered first, because obviously when you've got the valleys like grains really, so it takes bridges and tunnels to get across the valleys through the mountain, across the valley through the mountain. So you got lots of viaducts, and Crumlin Viaduct is the classic one. So that was the tallest railway viaduct in the country because it spanned this massive valley, the Ebu Valley, at about 100 feet, I think, isn't it? But it was made of metal, and the structures started to deteriorate quite quickly. And they wanted to preserve it after they closed it, but I think they were risking having that falling down on someone, so they had to dismantle it. And because of the increased engineering costs of these lines, they were the first ones to go on the chopping block.
Absolutely.
And as you say, that obviously Professor Marquand was calling for all of these lines to be electrified and to have proper commuter services so that you can actually get from the valleys down to Cardiff. But his advice was never heeded. You go through the war, the rail usage is still in decline, both from a passenger perspective. I mean, passengers were always an afterthought anyway. These railway lines were built for freight with some passenger stations. There were some passenger stations that didn't even have platforms.
Yeah,
it's that basic.
This was a massive railway network built entirely to just transport an enormous volume of bulk goods, primarily pretty much. I say primarily as if there was anything else coming close. It's just coal, just enormous volumes of coal.
Coal.
Yeah.
The Easter egg. I got my coal T-shirt on. The coal logo, fantastic branding in the 80s. British Rail had. But yeah, and the thing is, as well as that, from a passenger perspective, I think we look at the lines on a map, like Rail Map Online now, and say, why doesn't that place have a railway connection anymore? Because it had them. Brecon is a good example of this. I know it's slightly outside South Wales, but it was linked to from South Wales, and you can look at a map and say, well, it's got loads of railway connections. Why did it all close? The reality is that it's not the lines on the map that you should be looking at. It's the services. And the services serving Brecon went to places like Neath and Newport. And they were very infrequent and very long and rambling journeys over, railways like the Brecon and Merthyr. And so people weren't really using them. And it made total sense to get a car because you could drive, even back in the early 60s, you could drive a lot faster than you could get a train, because the train would take 2.5 hours to get to Newport, which is rubbish. So that's why you end up getting into a situation where, even into the 50s, we talk about the reshaping of British Railways report and his nibs who oversaw it. I won't mention his name because you'll buzz
the clerks will come up. That's it.
But a lot of the contraction of the railway network in South Wales was already happening in the 50s, and it left the smaller valleys isolated. You lost all the cross valleys links. A lot of the mainline stations closed, and also then you get the knock-on effect of in valleys you've got one road up and down. They're not very good roads because they're surrounded by houses. They're quite hilly and bendy. They were classic. The railway lines were classic targets for local authorities just to basically stick a road down where the rail corridor was, or fill an old station site or yard with houses. Suddenly any prospect of rebuilding these lines is completely gone. So that is the sort of situation that we're dealing with now with the metro, is that yes, a handful of lines were kept open for freight purposes. Some of them have survived now to a point where we can reopen those lines eventually, but a lot of the opportunities were basically lost in this period after they were all closed. By 1980, you had only 3 valley lines left. That was the Treherbert, Merthyr and Rugby lines. Lots of track singling and loss of rail infrastructure. Some were still in place for freight, but
it's very much like
very, very run down.
Yeah, and we were still extracting coal on a fairly large scale, but the passenger numbers dwindled again. So we should press on given time. Here is a picture of, is this Cathays?
This is Cathays in Cardiff. So this was the very first new station to be opened up. So there was originally a station here that was only serving trains going towards the valleys. It was a platform on one side only. So that went in the 60s. But then this brand new station serving the university and the civic centre, immediately a big hit. And then that was followed by about a whole kind of raft of new stations and reopened railway lines. I think in total between 1983 and 2008, we opened 35 new stations in 25 years.
That's not
so
bad.
It was quite extensive. That includes reopening Aberdare line in 88, Maesteg line in 92.
Should we flick to the map actually? Because this.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's when the Metro was all being put together by Professor Mark Barry. This was the kind of not just Professor Mark Barry, but a team of people as well. This was the kind of concept that we come up with, and some of these are old railway lines, some of them aren't. And I should sort of give a disclaimer: these weren't necessarily all rail proposals. Some of these were bus rapid transit as well. But just to give you a kind of idea of where everything fits together. A lot of these did start to pop up over that time period.
Yeah, it gives a good idea of the sort of the complexity of the urban area. This is a major urban area. I'm reassured by seeing the connections through Newport one end and Bridgend at the other. It is a very densely populated area. This bit of South Wales. So we've got this that Professor Berry kind of and the team came up with. So tell us about this, and then how it then fits into kind of the current picture.
Yeah, so I mean, the planning was going on. It's been going on for about 10 years. I think Professor Barry first published his report calling for a Cardiff and South East Wales metro system in 2011. That was always going to be a mixture of heavy rail, light rail, and bus rapid transit, emphasising the need for modal shift. This was kind of coming off the back of the South East Wales Transport Alliance, which had been set up in 2003, which had looked at lots of individual schemes, but it wasn't really empowered to come up with a transport strategy on top of all of this. So then by 2013, you're kind of getting what is now known as Metro Phase 1 confirmed, which then gets delivered over the next couple of years. So you start to see Pye Corner Station, which is on the outskirts of Newport, and the new Ebbw Vale Town Station, that opened in 2015. And then towards the end of 2015, you get the Rolling Out Our Metro publication, which this map was included in, and that was basically the big fanfare from Welsh Government, basically saying, this is what it could look like, decades down the line. Just to kind of emphasise, it's a long-term project. Yes, what we're focusing on at the moment is delivery of the Core Valley Lines upgrade. But, there's work there for a good 10, 15 years after at least, just to build up, some of the proposals that you'll see on the map. And,
yeah. So this map, I mean, it covers lots of colours. People can drop in later and pause it and stare at it, but it's also widely available online. So the next picture, let's see, where's this? We've got this station sign here, but I don't recognise the station. Where are we up here?
That's Cardiff Bay.
Oh, that's Bay. That's the Bay. That's Cardiff Bay.
Yeah, that's. Unfortunately, it used to be a much grander station. And thankfully, the station building has been preserved because that would deteriorate for a while.
I'm sure I've got Cardiff Bay. I don't remember it looking like this. I remember maybe I was paying too much attention to the bubble car that I was in, and not enough attention to what the station looked like when I arrived.
Yes, so this was a kind of a newly rebranded Class 153 that had just entered service. We got it from one of the other operators, and it arrived in a mishmash of different colours and branding. I think it's got seat covers, or had at the time, seat covers from First Great Western, but all the signage was London Midland.
Oh, really?
And the livery on the outside had faded quite a bit, so it was all given a full decorate. We're currently refurbishing all our Class 1, a lot of the Class 153s that we've got to make them PRM compliant. But yeah, so we were formed in 2016 to sort of begin the procurement process, which was the largest ever public procurement done in Wales. That was then confirmed in May 2018 that Keolis Amy were the winners with their solution, and it was done in the procurement, I should say, was done in a different way to your franchises in England, in the sense of with regards to the metro, they were the bidders were basically given a certain amount of freedom. So they were told, okay, see, Welsh Government said, we want this service frequency in the valleys, but how are you going to deliver that in terms of heavy rail or light rail and other solutions that you may have? That's entirely for you to come up with. So it's quite an innovative way of doing it, and given a bit more freedom than they would. And that's why each of the bidders had an infrastructure partner to kind of develop the Core Valley lines then when the transfer took place. So then in October 2018, then Wales and Borders Rail Service transferred from Arriva Trains Wales over to Keolis Amy, who trade as Transport for Wales Rail Services. And then after that, in 2019, you're already seeing the benefits, because we operated most services on the Wheels and Borders network in its history, which kind of goes back to my earlier point. You can see how infrequent the services were in the past.
Yeah,
the fact that we'd got to a point that it's a lot more intensively used now than it was back then.
Yep. So here we are. Nice picture with a slightly creepy numbered 153, but we won't worry about that too much. Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. I given how many times I've popped down the line, so I've got family in Cardiff, so people might have noticed I am actually a bit Welsh. Hello, everyone. Named after a particularly famous rugby player, people might notice. But so I'm in Cardiff. I used to be in Cardiff, like, not infrequently, and I was there. In fact, having done my north-south cycle, I was in Cardiff like 4 days, just kind of because I did it quicker than I planned to, and was just basically riding around on trains to railway stations, just enjoying myself. And took this one a couple of times. I cannot believe I didn't It's more leafy than I remember it being, to be honest. Yeah, it's nice. Anyway, right, let's skip to the next image. So here is South Wales Metro. It still has potential written next to it. But tell us about this one and how this fits in terms of what's being delivered when.
So this is the sort of basic map of all of the services that come under the Metro. And you can see each line is color-coded by the different type of rolling stock that's going to be running it. So the core Valley lines is the red line in the middle. That's the Rumney line. So I'll talk a bit more about the rolling stock later. That's been dealt with by Flirts, and then the line coming off that at Queen Street up towards Rhadder and Pontypridd. That's going to be the most intensively used section of the network, where you're going to have 12 trains per hour between Cardiff and Pontypridd. They're going to be tram trains, all built by Stadler. And you're going to have 18 trains per hour going through Queen Street.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very intensive service, and then kind of really pushes the capacity up much more than it is now. And just to have like brand new trains, we're still running paces at the moment. Hopefully not for too much longer. It'll be weeks rather than too many months and years. We're aware that it's not an ideal situation. They are being paid up with PRM compliant trains, but it's going to be such a lift for people to come from that to brand new rolling stock, which is all going to be rolled out over the next few years on every line in the Metro. We're doing a complete fleet replacement, and the vast majority of those will be with microphones dropping off the table. Will be with brand new trains. So and also there's going to be more integration between the Pontypridd lines, the TAM lines, if you call them, to Aberdeen Merthyr, with the Bay line. So half of the services coming down from Pontypridd will head off down to the Bay. So it gives you direct access between the valleys and the Bay, which is a big thing for the Bay area, given the plans for the development of that area.
Yeah. So you can see it disappearing off down. So you've kind of got down to the Bay. There's the Bay. Yeah, crikey. So there's
18. You've got a few new stations in there as well, which you can see.
these green things are the new stations or largely rebuilt stations. Yeah, nice. So there's one thing I've noticed up here, and this is a question that we've been asked, and that I need to ask as well, which is the extent to which this can be called a metro, given that it's one of the themes of Railnatter is not calling things metros that aren't metros. But I'm kind of okay. So the numbers, so the per hour numbers are pretty intensive. So I'm pleased at seeing those. I suppose the trains are quite small, which is where you're perhaps not pulling the 10,000 passengers per hour per direction numbers. It's because they're not small, but they're not they're not like 12-car. Sort of massive trains. They're kind of how many cars is the standard running going to be of the new trains? So
each tram train unit will be 3. The Flirts will be a mixture of 3 and 4. But in terms of the tram trains, I think there'll be a lot of doubling up. So I estimated the passengers per hour per direction for the Cardiff to Pontypridd section is going to be about 4,500. Which is still a big uplift on it at the moment, where usually we're about 3,000. And in peak time in the evening, or over the course of an evening peak, we'll be at 10,000 passengers. But obviously, I think that's spread over 2 hours. So it's not 10,000, but it's a lot, and it's a big increase on what we have now, and it unlocks more capacity. And at the end of the day, we've got follow-on orders for the rolling stock that we're bringing in. There's the possibility that if it does unlock serious capacity, and we do really see that modal shift, we could end up having even more frequent services in the future, but that obviously will require a lot more heavy engineering.
Yeah, that's it. So it requires heavier engineering, but there's a balance to be struck, actually, in that you don't want to go, for this sort of system, you don't want to go absolutely full blast on CapEx and create a load of stuff that just doesn't get filled. You don't drive the modal shift and you've got a load of empty trains running around. That's not, you kind of want this staged approach. So the approach that's been taken from a staging perspective is quite a sensible one. It's still a massive leap up, so you're going to capture quite a lot of constrained demand, which is good, drive a bit of modal shift, and then hopefully you expect then to be a bit of momentum and people sort of start calling, as they see the success. It kind of perception is quite important. If people are seeing empty trains with a major investment, that's not good. If people are seeing things a good service, but it's also getting full quite quickly, there's the energy behind expansion. So yeah, it's a sensible approach. The other thing I've highlighted up here is that so whilst the whole thing is called the metro, the actual metro service is being kind of they are being clear, or in the branding it's clear that actually that the stuff that is actually a metro is being restricted to the kind of the tram train stuff. So
yes, and I think the Rumney Line trains are getting the branding as well. So you'll see metro branded trains out as far as Bridgend. The heavy rail services going out to Ebbw Vale, Maesteg and Cheltenham. So they've got a different type of flirt. They're a diesel flirt rather than the triangle. And so they've been more like the Greater Railway. And yeah, I don't think they're carrying necessarily metro branded.
Your mic's popping a bit there, just in case there's something hitting it. Yeah, okay, good stuff. So that's the map. I think everyone's we've got crackling from the mic. Whose mic's crackling? It's mine, perhaps. What's happening? Electrification. Is it worth talking about electrification while this is up? Do you reckon?
Yeah, can do. So the electrification on the CVL is what we're calling smart electrification. So it's a form of discontinuous electrification, but it's slightly different from what you would see elsewhere. So the way it works is that I think most of the line will be electrified. Then there will be sections of permanently earthed OLE. So when the train comes up to that, there'll be a beacon, and it'll tell the train switch to battery mode, but you don't need to lower the pantograph. So particularly around stations where you haven't necessarily got as much clearance. Now there are other sections of the line that aren't being wired at all. So around complicated junctions, but it will be really, really disruptive to close the lines to do that. I say that because actually, while the fact that the railways north of Rada are closed at the moment as part of a big engineering block, but I'll get onto that in a minute. So that at that point the beacon will tell it, okay, you have to lower the pantograph as well, and then it'll just automatically switch to the battery. You won't lose any performance, and the batteries will recharge at the end of the line. So it is a different way of doing it from elsewhere, but there will be no diesel trains north of Cardiff on the CVL network once everything is all rolled out. It is, a very sustainable solution. And yes, you could argue the battery is going to add weight, but the journey time reductions are really, really significant from the heads of the valleys. You're talking what is currently like a 65-minute journey into Cardiff from the heads of the valleys is being reduced to about 50. So you're talking about 20% journey reduction. So that's pretty significant in and of itself. And that all just brings the valleys closer to Cardiff, really, and creates more of the city region, which is what this is all about, and helps bring people closer to employment opportunities, and also helps spread employment opportunities further up the valleys as well.
So I shall be watching the electrification very closely, shall we say, because I remain a skeptic of some of the discontinuous stuff. But again, it's a bit like what we've just talked about, isn't it? It's a bit like there's a balance to be struck between getting that uplift, getting that 20% journey time improvement, making these changes, making quite a spectacular change to people's service that they have. And then next stages of actually, once that's running, then perhaps you can start looking at some of the more complex junctions. Because I dare say some of those junctions, it's not just about electrification, actually. If you're going to be, it's the sort of junctions that rather than electrifying it, it's the sort of junction you might do heavy remodelling of at a next stage. So wiring it now is a little bit wasted cash, and you might come back to it and do it later and do things quite radically different.
Yeah, exactly. So the electrification, that's being put in place, it should be enough for the services that are being timetabled in. But obviously, if we would get to a point where, the services were going to be expanded in the future, then, it's a flexible enough solution that it should be quite easy to fill in the gaps. For instance, when bridges need replacing, then they can be put in higher, and you might be able to do something there. But it's with the future in mind. I think that's the big thing. It is a case of getting it done with as minimum disruption as possible, because at the end of the day, if you close one of those lines in and out of Cardiff, you close all of them.
Yeah.
Versus kind of doing it properly, and there's always a balance to be struck, and I think we've got a good balance to get this done really quite quickly.
You've got to remember that the junction down, well, it's sort of not really shown, but the junction kind of down here is one that's driven a huge amount of electrification innovation, because there was nothing that could be done with the junction in terms of conventional electrification clearances. So that's where we've had to drive getting DC clearances using AC equipment. More on that. Actually, we talked about it in the previous rail network.
Gary did it. Yeah,
he did. He talked about it. And so the work that happened at the junction here, really the junction, it's kind of the junction, this junction here actually, with where the Queen Street and then the southwest, the South Wales main line meet. The electrification of that junction is a nightmare, and it's a good example of the scale of, you close that junction and do the physical works. Well, it's not so much that you're closing everything. That's just absolutely everything in all directions is scuppered by that. So yeah, it is challenging. And again, it's the nature of that. Well, it's partly the nature of the natural geography of where the valleys all feed into, but also the nature of the way the railway lines were built is that they all come into a couple of pinch points and make it a very uniquely challenging from an engineering planning perspective, shall we say.
Yeah, there's some nasty bottlenecks, like just north of Queen Street, that's where the two lines split. That was scaled back. It must have been in the 70s when they remodeled Queen Street and demolished the lovely station building, what was the headquarters of the Taffrail Railway.
Yeah.
So that's 2 tracks in and out over Newport Road, and there's big tower blocks either side, so you're restricted in terms of what you can do there. The other one is Penarth Curve Junction, where the City line and the Barry line split. If we were to increase the frequency on the City line, you'd have to basically build a flyover there. And then Pontypridd is going to be a bottleneck as well. So there's lots of pinch points there, and there will be a certain amount of sort of playing around with that. Obviously, the Cardiff area re-signalling was done up until 2017, so that kind of created a lot of extra capacity anyway by putting extra platforms in at Queen Street and Central. So it's done a lot of the work for it. But yeah, there are a few tweaks here and there that need to be made.
So moving on from our map, crikey, we've already hit 8 o'clock. It's happened. I was thinking we'll sail this. It's going to be a timely episode, and we've already. Well, I screwed up at the start, didn't I? Anyway, we've now got a nice visualization of. It's showing us these are the tram train units, right? These are the 3-car tram train units.
Yeah, so this is the artist impression of the Taftswell depot site, which is where all the tram trains are going to be maintained. It's also going to be the control centre. So the control is moving for the CVL is moving up to Taftswell once that's all finished. Taftswell is a great point because you got that space there. It's actually built on what's known locally as the Forge Master site, which was an industrial site, but way back when it was also a railway site as well, and actually had to tear tracks up out of the ground, but that was still there because they'd never been taken out. There was a little engine shed there as well, going back to the Rumney Railway days. Yeah. So it's a historic railway site. So the tram trains, they're going to be OLE and battery, as I said. They're exclusively going to run on the Merthyr Aberdeenshire Herbert lines, but because they're tram trains, they can run on heavy rail and light rail lines. And I think the eyes of Britain are going to be on us because, yes, the tram train trial in Sheffield, that's a bit of a mouthful.
Tram train trial in Sheffield.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't in I don't know, Harrogate.
Yeah. So so that's obviously been progressing well, and the tram trains that we have are very similar. I think they're Stadlers as well. But we're the first ones that are doing it on a big scale. I know there are plans like TFGM, Great Manchester, are talking about potentially using tram train technology. I noticed in the Scottish Greens article today they
I was gonna
talked
say,
about it.
That's particularly topical today, given how much the Greens were looking at relying on it for particularly, and it's to me sounds like a good idea for places like Aberdeen and Dundee where you don't have the necessarily the footfall for a heavy rail connection, but you definitely need to be serving some of the large urban areas in the spread. Dundee and Aberdeen are big cities with quite large urban sprawl. So
definitely, and of course that will then apply for Cardiff as well. So the points beyond the current commitments that we have in place, where we start to look at extensions of the network, then the fact that we have tram trains, it gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of what we can do with it. And then, so alongside this, so we got the tri-mode flirts for the Rumney, Carton and Vale Glamorgan lines. So they'll be running off the OLE and battery on the CVL network. Then they'll be switching to a diesel network, diesel engine down to Barry and the Vale of Glamorgan, because that section line isn't being electrified. And then also there's the diesel flirts as well, and all of those trains will have level boarding.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's something I noticed in the video that we're maybe about to show in a minute. There's some very important words that I saw in there about level boarding. And there's another thing, when I was pleased to see that the Stadlers were being, Stadler again, I'm a big fan of Stadler and the trains that they create, because they've essentially entered the market in a big way in the UK via Merseyrail, and a major part of that brief was having level boarding. That's now cascaded. They now have that understanding and are certainly the best placed rolling stock provider for the UK market now in providing level boarding as a result of that learning. So I'm very pleased about that. I'm going to click on here and then press the next button. So we can flip between these two because before this is work in progress, right?
Yes. So this is the Taftswell site as it is at the moment. You can see the frame of the control building in the background. That's so I walked the route that I walked on the old railway line up Big Hill, as it's known, kind of runs behind that. This eventually will be a big bustling depot. So I think that's the biggest visual indicator, because behind that you can see the main road. That's the A470, which is the main road up to Merthyr and eventually up to North Wales.
Yeah,
so you've got a lot of people that are coming past this.
The bloody A470, everyone hates it.
Yeah. We've also opened our infrastructure hub in Treforest Estate. That's where all the metro work is kind of being coordinated from. We've begun work on track. That started in July. The first major infrastructure work was in the autumn on what is known as the Old Colliery site, which is on the Aberdare line. And we're doing the 3-week blockade at the moment while we're in lockdown, and it's essential journeys only. Best time to get it done now.
Absolutely, yep.
Obviously there's evening work and weekend work going on through the rest of the year. We've also started doing other things as well. So we reduced fares last January, introduced free tickets for under 11s and free off-peak tickets for under 16s. We've launched smart cards, and we've also introduced the Class 769s on the Rumney line. They're slowly being phased in, which will allow us then to get rid of the Pacers very, very soon.
Yeah, I was going to say the 769s, those the 319s getting some serious mileage there, but they're good. Yeah, the as with these things, just like was experienced with the refurb of the 319s up in and the family of trains like that up in the north. When they're done well, electric trains actually last. You can get some decent life out of them. So these 769s, these tri-modes. Actually, the 769s are tri-modes, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes. Well, the ones that we've got are bi-mode. I think GWR have got tri-modes, haven't they, for the service out to Surrey?
Yeah.
But I think they're generally just running off the diesel at the moment because obviously there's no electrification. So it's basically like having a diesel train. They're fully refurbished. It's not brand new, but it's a significant capacity increase because they're 4 carriages. They can carry a lot of people. Yeah,
definitely. So then. Right, okay, tell us about this. So we've got a diagram on screen, which is I presume the broader sort of Welsh Government strategy, is it? Or is it more about, is it the Transport for Wales sort of overriding principles? Tell us about this.
So this is the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which was introduced by the Welsh Government in April 2016. So what you see on here is the 7 wellbeing goals for Wales. So a more prosperous Wales, a more resilient Wales, healthier Wales, more equal, Wales are cohesive communities, vibrant culture and thriving Welsh language, and globally responsible. So all public bodies in Wales have to adhere to this Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and it's been a massive part of what we're doing. We're really pushing to kind of be the most sustainable organisation that we can be, and meet these targets, and working really closely with the Future Generations Office. So it also holds Welsh Government to account as well in terms of their decision making. And the reason I wanted to kind of bring this in, and this is just one piece of several different pieces of legislation that have come in. So the Environment Wales Act, that was 2016, Prosperity for All, the National Strategy. You can start reading off a list, kind of. The Climate Emergency, which was declared 2 years ago. So it's all about creating a framework where we can have a sustainable transport network, and it kind of guides us strategically in focusing more on public transport. So it kind of then allows us to kind of push forward things that maybe wouldn't have happened in other parts of the country. To basically to say, we have to prioritize this because it is the most sustainable way of traveling. And it's going to be a key part then of the new Wales Transport Strategy, which is currently out for consultation until the 25th January, if anyone wants to fill it in. But that will then be released later this year to say what's our transport strategy going forward until 2040, so the next 20 years. To get this focus on sustainable transport.
It's something that the distinct lack of kind of a vision is really hampering Westminster, and has been for a very long time actually. But I think it's becoming ever more acutely obvious, given the current crisis, how important having a strategy is, because we have several major crises at the moment. One of them is the most vivid in everyone's mind, and I think it's really quite obvious how the lack of strategy has caused a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of people. And frankly, the same is true for climate change, and it's so important. And likewise with tackling inequality and kind of these things, kind of the challenges we have of loneliness, all these things. Without a strategy, there's no way of tackling them. So it's so important. So yeah, it's good to see that these overarching strategic principles, these sort of policy principles, are helping from a transport perspective. So let's go to So here we have a picture of Swansea, Swansea Station, looking shiny. Tell us what's happening at Swansea for you to chuck this picture in.
So basically, obviously, Swansea is in South Wales, generally regarded as being in South Wales. I know some people do think of it as in West Wales, but you'll note that it's not covered by the South Wales Metro. It's because, as I said earlier, the Cardiff Capital Region is the 10 local authorities. Then East Port Talbot and Swansea make up the Swansea Bay area, and that is one of the metro schemes that we're developing in the background, along with the North Wales Metro. So basically creating integrated public transport networks in other parts of the country, so it's not just about South Wales. Obviously, these are a bit further behind in their development because South Wales Metro has been in development for 10 years. These are slightly more recent schemes, but they are going to be ambitious schemes, and there's going to be lots of rail developments associated with it. We're working with Welsh Government, local authorities, then to kind of to develop that. Hopefully, be able to update you very soon on.
Yeah, we did have questions about North Wales and whether jobs would come out of this for North Wales. Well, yes is the answer. We have other people asking about North Wales. North Wales Metro is in development. We also had questions about electrification through to Swansea. I suppose that's a bit of a different question, really. It is within Transport for Wales's remit, but it's kind of outside of the Metro remit. So we'll perhaps pause.
It's a Welsh Government aspiration.
It is an aspiration.
The Welsh Government have an aspiration to reduce journey times between Cardiff and Swansea to 30 minutes, and electrification is part of that. It's a very challenging scheme because the South Wales main line between Cardiff and Swansea is very bendy. It's not really been built as a full main line. It has lots of level crossings as well, which causes all sorts of problems when you come into electrification. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in partnership with Network Rail, who continue to manage that, to kind of understand what it is that it's
part of the reason why it fell out of scope. Well, there are lots of reasons why, but part of the reason why it fell out of scope is because it's such a crap main line. Once you get beyond Cardiff, it's rubbish. Like it's not a suitable intercity mainline railway. The alignment is poor in lots of places. Like it just takes doolally routing decisions again, because it's not been designed really as a strategic railway. It was kind of joining. Coal doesn't need to arrive in any particularly timely fashion. It just needs to be reliable. So the line was pretty much acting as a pickup feeder for lots of the Valley's lines right the way along the coast. It didn't need to be a strategic straight line link up between the city centres, which is what it needs to be now. So yeah, part of me thinks it's not necessarily a crazy idea to have pushed electrification back pending the need to do some big heavy engineering. In any case, that's another one.
I think the argument at the time from the DfT was that you could electrify the line between Cardiff and Swansea, but it wouldn't necessarily deliver the timetable benefits. That you could achieve the timetable targets that they had with bi-mode trains. But from a TfW perspective, obviously we have a couple of branch lines off that which feed onto that line, and there are lots of potential new stations that could open up along that line as well. So there are lots of different kind of factors at play. Certainly, as I said, Welsh Government aspiration is for widespread electrification. We're fully on board with the traction decarbonisation report the Network Rail did recently. We're working with them on future electrification projects.
Yeah, Alex in the chat as well. He is pointing out that they're working very closely with Liverpool in improving the connectivity across border with Merseyside as well, which is good, because it's obviously that's a major, North Wales and Merseyside are very closely connected, so it's some good strategic thinking there. Yeah.
North Wales is a really interesting place because obviously there are a lot of calls for better connectivity between North Wales and South Wales, because historically they just haven't been there because it was never the demand there until relatively recently. But obviously there are also parts of North Wales, such as in and around Wrexham, where they look more towards northwest England for their connectivity and for their opportunities. We have cross-border lines, the Wrexham to Bidston line, which is going to be a key part of the North Wales Metro. We have those services into Manchester as well. So, yeah, it's the North Wales Metro will be a cross-border project because, it'll be focusing on those links. And, Chester's a classic example. It's the gateway to Wales, but it is in England.
Yeah, so it's a major Welsh transport hub. It just happens to be on the wrong side of the border. Sorry, that's me just closing a packet of food that's just fallen over everyone, just to keep you in the loop there. So that's a bit of chat around Swansea. Nice. So I've just managed to flick back on a slide as well. Right, yeah. So we have a video, which I'm going to try and cleverly sort of click in and out of when we want to kind of talk about something on the video. So the video's moving. There we are. There's a nice graphic going. Which is great for the people in podcast form. So it's just a description of the metro, and it looks nice. Transport for Wales is building the South Wales Metro, and there we are. Very nice. Well, we know that. We talked about that bit. Making it easier to travel by train, bus, bike, or on foot. Wait, I should do my best Welsh accent on this. No, I'm not going to do it. Make it easier to get to work, school, your hospital appointment, or to get out and about. There isn't an audio. Right, okay, so
now you're saying
this is important. So... a modern turn up and go service with quicker journeys. So that's important. It's maintaining 2AG, which is important.
Have you paused the video?
I have, yeah.
Oh, that's okay then. Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not frozen. I've just paused it. I can click in and out of it because then we can kind of pick up interesting things. So I want to pick up on some points. So while we've got that actually, so we've had a few questions about ticketing, and so while these pictures of some nice trains and a station are up. Is there going to be electronic season tickets, that sort of thing? Is there going to be like an Oyster card system? You've already started rolling out early phases of that, right?
Yeah, we've started rolling out the smart cards and putting smart card validators on stations, which are those posts that kind of stick up at the ground with funny things on top. So they've started to be used in the metro area. Yes, I think the long-term aspiration, or possibly not even long-term, probably medium-term aspiration is for integrated ticketing with multimodal ticketing across trains and buses.
Yeah, that's good. That's multimodal ticketing. This is it. Forget mass. This is proper integrated ticketing. Very pleased about that. So here we are. There's a nice train here. Not the actual one that's going to be running, but it's just to do the job of the.
Yeah, it's a bit of an old graphic. This part of the graphic is a bit old, but this is Pontypridd. This is where I live now. What used to be the longest station platform in the world.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? Now it's one of the ones down in. It's now in like the Gloucester or something like that. I can't remember. One of the longest
Yeah.
ones is there. I think I can't remember exactly which.
So what you're seeing now on screen is Newport City Centre and a bus coming up to Newport Station.
It's got the
all
funny.
designed to say integrated.
It's got the squiggle.
transport.
It's got the squiggle up here. Wait a minute. Can I? Yeah, squiggle. If I touch it, it moves again. That's fine. More frequent accessible reliable services. Lovely. Yep. So this is the important bit that I wanted to point out. Level boarding is at the bottom of our screen, which is really, really critical because it needs to be, level boarding needs to be part of. This is the nice boulevard from the bay up towards the city centre. By the way, Cardiff's lovely. If anyone's not been to Cardiff, once COVID's gone, go to Cardiff. It's lovely. Anyway, level boarding has to be a fundamental part. It should be said explicitly because it's such a chronic problem across the whole railway system in the UK. I'm very pleased to see level boarding being talked about explicitly.
And we'll be making big step-free access improvements to stations as well. Virtually all the stations on the metro network will be upgraded to have step-free access. So I think the only one that doesn't is one of the ones near me, which has a subway. So yeah, accessibility is a massive part of what we're doing. We're putting a lot of money into that.
Fantastic. Let's keep moving.
So this is Cardiff Bay we're seeing now.
There was the Torchwood Tower thing with water on it. There's some containers. Very nice. There was something. What else did I... there's the little trains.
It's meant to symbolise the kind of the extension of the Bay line, and we're coming up to the new station that's going to be built in Butte Town. So the Cardiff Bay branch, as I say, has been integrated into the Valleys network. They're also going to be upgrades to the line itself as well, and it's going to form part of Cardiff Council's aspiration for the Cardiff Crossrail line as well, which is going to link up East and West Cardiff.
Ooh, Cardiff Crossrail, folks. You heard it here first. Actually, you probably didn't hear it here first. But anyway, there are Transport Rails. That was a nice little visualization. And that kind of quite neatly summarized, kind of almost concludes our chat, really. The only last image you've got is near my folks' house. So this is a view that I'm used to, although I'm used to this being a pile of, usually a pile of wood, whereas now it's got a station in it, because this is Bow Street.
This is Bow Street in Ceredigion, yes.
Yeah. So this is New Bow Street. So you sent us a picture of New Bow Street Station, which is exciting. These Class 158s are trains that I've caught an enormous number of times to and from. Actually, Borth is our local station, weirdly. So we live in Talabont, just up the road, just up the A483, and. Where's the A487? Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting my.
It's the 87.
It's the 87. It is which is just incidentally just over here.
We built a new road junction there for the transport.
Why did you build a new road junction when there's a junction there already? I saw the original plans, and I was like, oh, why did they put another road junction when they could have just done a roundabout and done both next to each other?
So, we did originally plan a roundabout, but we had to make design changes. So so basically it's all going to be a bus station, park and ride. There's going to be access through to the new Aberystwyth Uni campus there as well. But yeah, I think that they had to do some changes to the road there because I think that road is a bit dangerous. So
it is, but it's the bloody highways officers. Highways officers, you don't know how to do anything. Screw you. No, it's good though. Bow Street for people who live up
February.
Say again.
Opening in February, so we're literally weeks away from services starting.
Opening in February, that's exciting.
First new station.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's actually quite a bit. It's quite a well used line. This bit, people do hop on and off and kind of move into Aberystwyth. Aberystwyth is when the students are there, it's got a population around 28,000, I think. So it's quite a big town. It's a large town, and people do filter in and out from Bow Street and Talabont and Borth, particularly Borth actually. What's funny about Bow Street though is that anyone at the other end of Bow Street has about like a half-hour walk to get to the station because Bow Street's a very long village. So this station's at the other end because it makes sense because it's on the side where the old Eiger campus is. So where the kind of the Institute of Biological Sciences kind of campus is this end, so it does kind of make sense. But potentially it means maybe there's going to be a chance for another station at the other end as well, in through like Llandra or just a bit further up. That'd be nice. So there's the next one to plan is Llandra station, just a bit further up.
I mean we're looking at so many different options for railway stations at the moment. There's lots of
the challenge. the challenge with lines like this is that every new station you introduce adds quite a lot of extra time to the timetable.
Yes.
And that is the ultimate challenge, because you're having to deliver. It's very difficult to justify increasing journey times. So it's like an eternal challenge. There's another
station.
station.
We want to increase the service frequency up to hourly, which will be done once the new rolling stock comes in. We'll have an hourly frequency between Shrewsbury and Aberystwyth. It'd be great for Bow Street, but it does mean that we're a bit tighter, because a lot of the line you can see here is single track, so you are constrained with capacity. And I think Carno station, I think that just is a future aspiration. I believe it got a little bit of funding in the most recent round, or was certainly allocated for future funding. So that's going to be an extra station on that line anyway.
Yeah, I've got to be careful what I say about that, because I have been working on or have touched on that particular station. So right. it is a vague reality. That's probably all I can say. There we are. Anyway, yes. So Bow Street. It's exciting. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, James, for going through that. That's been brilliant. Anything else you want? Anything else you want to say while we have the Bow Street picture up? This last 158.
Just thank you for having me. I hope I've covered that in enough detail, not been too vague as well. So.
No, that's great. Well, we've hopefully suitably audio described for our people who watch this in podcast form. So thanks to all those who are listening in podcast form. Again, I don't know how successful this was, but we'll see. And as ever, the kind of the standard stuff, really. Patreon, support me on Patreon to make more of this. And if you don't fancy a regular subscription, then you can chuck me pennies at PayPal. That's quite nice as well. I need to do my tax returns, actually, so that's something I need to remember to do. Note to self. And also come onto the Discord, where all sorts of things happen. We've got 20 technical channels, careers channels, channels about keeping up on the news, and a safety space. But also there's a whole channel dedicated to making me appear on top of things in meme form. Thanks everyone for that. Really, really great. So come onto the Discord, garethdowns.co.uk/Discord, and you'll find your way on there, and then have to deal with people memeing my stupid face. James, the Clan Project. Tell us about the Clan Project.
This is what I get up to in my spare time. So I'm the media and publicity officer for the Clan Project. We're building a British Railways Standard 6 class, the Clan class. Only 10 of them were ever built, because they were meant to be like a scaled down version of Britannia. They were going to build more, and then BR modernisation plan happened, so everything got cancelled. They generally ran on those routes where you needed powerful engines but light engines. So the classic one that I get remembered for is the Stranraer boat trains.
Yeah.
So it makes it an ideal loco for mainline operation in the 21st century, if you are indeed into kettles, as I am. So if anyone's interested, here's the website. We're making great progress at the moment. The frames are done.
I've got a picture, actually. Here we are. There's a picture.
Yep, here we are. So this is being built in Sheffield with our partner CTL Seal, who are also building the Sandringham, which is now have Rod Stewart as their patron.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah, they're making good progress as well. So you can see that we've done all the front end, the frames, the cab. But now we need lots of money to kind of fill that big gap where the boiler should be and where the bits and pieces should be. So we're doing a big fundraising drive at the moment. If anyone's interested, please check us out on the website.
theclanproject.org. Yeah, theclanproject.org. Go head there. Show your support if you can. Nice one. It's back to my plugs again now. So what have we got? So first of all, very, very quick. If you've been keeping up with the stream where I build railways, then you can do that, and there'll be another one on Friday. There are so many, and they last forever. And people, I think it's like slow TV. People just put it on in the background and get on with their life. But that'll be up on Friday. You can catch up. What else? A reminder that there we are. It's nice. There it is. This Connaught Bridge. Watch Tim's show. It's out on Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Tuesday nights. Next week is the first one. You'll see me, I think, a bit later on in some episodes later on. So tune in. And yes, we might well have Tim joining us again to talk about it. So look forward to that. That should be nice. Oh, it's a rather beautiful spot. This, I'm looking forward to seeing what some of their drone footage includes. It's going to be stunning. I'm excited. Oh, and next week, episode 45 of Rail Natter. Bloody hell, 45 of these. It's incredible. We're going to have a page turn through the National Infrastructure Commission's stupid strategic rail links report. It was a mess. There are some good things in there, so we'll hopefully pick some of those out. But it'll give us a chance to talk through it, have a look at the detail, have an understanding of why this thing has got it so wrong, and generally talk about the failures in Britain's wider railway transport strategy, which is good after this episode, because we've seen where there are successes in devolution when it comes to transport, and how on a national level we just are failing time and time again. So that should be fun. I'm gonna press this button here. James, you're back. We're both back next to each other. I'm going to wave around my Wacom pen. Thanks, Ella, for convincing me that Wacom's a good idea. Everyone's been like, why is he sketching on the screen so much? It's because I've got this thing. Because I can scribble around on this. I can't do it now because it's we're not looking at that. James, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We've only run on 26 minutes late. Actually, 20 minutes late because we started 5 minutes late. So I don't think we're doing too bad.
You did a great job of managing me, because I will sit here and talk about the railway network of South Wales in enormous detail for 4 hours if you let me. So no, it's been great.
I was going to say, this is for everyone in the Discord, that you can just, if you want that to happen, just convince, just go into the Discord and we'll all be chatting away about it. It'll continue in the Discord forever and ever. No, that's been great, James. Thanks so much for that. People are warning that I'll be in a mood next week because of the report. No, I'm going to start with the Green Party thing to get me in a happy mood, and then I'll be angry about the. Anyway, James, it only remains for us to sort of say cheerio, everyone. I think, yeah. Cheerio! Cheerio!